In my last video about the Corsair Virtuoso XT, I mentioned that Tarkov players perceive bass as a distraction and claim it has an impact on their overall gaming performance. I said that they would probably be better off buying a El Cheapo headset than buying such an expensive headset like the Virtuoso. So that's exactly what I got here. For just 28 euros, you can call yourself the proud owner of such an El Cheapo headset. And to be more precise, the Trust GXT 450 Blizz RGB 7.1 surround gaming headset. But what do you get for such kind of money? Check out this video and you will know. Trust is a Dutch company with a rather bad reputation for its poor quality of products. If my friends or myself have something that's easily broken, we joke that we trust it's a trust. Get it? But strangely, over the years, Trust has somehow managed to sell enough stuff to make a profit. And nowadays it's more of a cash cow for its founder, who is among the richest persons in the Netherlands. How he achieved this is a bit of a mystery to me, because Trust failed to improve on its bad reputation. Not a good starting point for the Trust headset. But not everything that Trust makes is bad. You sometimes just have to adjust your expectations to the price level. Now I have this Trust GXT 619 Thorn soundbar with RGB for some time now. And it's okay enough for me because the audio is at least a bit better than the speakers on my monitor. It isn't high def, it doesn't have a large soundstage, and the bass is somewhat missing. But it's good enough for me. My expectations were that high for the price it costs. So how good is the Blizz with very low expectations? Now, to find out, I delved into the depths of the internet and found some interesting specifications. So let's dive into those. As always, the website of the manufacturer is the best starting position, and with the Blizz that's also the case. It has no noise reduction, no background noise reduction, some simple accessories, and of course RGB. It weighs 326 grams and uses an inline remote control. All connections are wired via the USB 2.0, so no Bluetooth, no LDAC, no aptX and such. More interesting is the audio bit. It supports 7.1 surround sound and has a very nice frequency response of 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz. Perfect. The driver size is 14mm, which is a bit on the small side. The sensitivity is 120 decibels and the sound pressure level, or SPL, 113 decibels. And this is loud, people, very loud. I mean, overkill loud. Maybe the people at Trust have gotten deaf, but this is really just insanely loud. Imagine that 120 decibels is standing 1 meter away from an ambulance siren. But okay, it's cool that it can at least reach those kinds of volumes. The microphone is omnidirectional, not something that is good, as I pointed out in the video about the Corsair Virtuoso. It's designed for gaming, whatever that's supposed to mean. Maybe it's just because of the RGB that it's also good for gaming? Something that's more interesting is what drives the headset. What DAC is used, and are there any swappable op amps? Well, no, it's just a C media codec. Now, I haven't seen one of those in a very long time. As far as I can remember, they were used in a lot of ASUS sound cards and of course the Teufel gaming cage. Back then I wasn't too impressed by the quality that it delivered. Oh, and check out the soldering on the right. I'm absolutely no soldering master myself, but I think I could have done a better job. Back to the codec. The datasheet says the following: the CM108B is a highly integrated, crystal-free USB audio single-chip solution optimized for USB headset, headphone and dongle applications. Now this basically means that everything is included on the chip itself. The DAC, the ADC, the op amps, the USB connection, everything. Almost no additional electronics are needed and thus cutting the production costs, while taking shortcuts in the audio quality. It's also interesting to see that it's crystal free and the oscillation is handled by the C media codec. A crystal has a very precise and constant oscillation or vibration, which regulates the timings of the digital to analog converter, analog to digital converter and everything else. As a general rule, the more accurate the timings, the better the audio. So having one of those oscillators greatly improves the audio quality, but Trust chose to leave it out, even though they are cheap and the CM108B can be attached to an external crystal if wanted. Now, for as far as I know, every single sound card that I own has some form of crystal oscillator. Here's a picture of an oscillator on the Creative Audigy FX V2, which has the frequency of 24,576 MHz. A great internal sound card, by the way. Now, this is also the reason why the Blizz has a lower bitrate, because for that you need a more precise timing. Now it will only go up to 16 bits and 48 kHz. There's also another chip on the mini board, an FT93C46A, which is an EEPROM, or a non-volatile memory chip to store basic data like its name, settings, the pattern of the RGB and everything else. Nothing exciting. Now, cutting costs is mainly done by using all the shortcuts that Trust could use, and this is okay. Trust wanted a cheap headset, so shortcuts had to be made. The CM108B is one of the cheapest codecs in the world. Getting one will just cost you $38. Now an oscillator would cost maybe a bit more, maybe $1. So on paper the components aren't that good, but what about the exterior? Is that any better? Now, as Calder Willingham is quoted so beautifully by Leonard Nimoy in Civilization 4, I just want to say one word to you, just one word. Plastics. Not one single piece of metal can be found in this headset, besides maybe the speakers themselves. It's just plastics all around, and poor quality plastics. From the ear pads to the frame, from the mic boom to the inline controller, everything is plastic, breakable plastic. It feels fragile and is extremely uncomfortable. After a gaming session of just half an hour, it would hurt my ears. The ear cups should be over ear, but my rather large ears, it's just a more of an on-ear thing. I wonder if the people at Trust even did some test trials or research at least a bit of the wearing comfort, what that should be all about. On the mic there is a small blue LED to indicate whether the mic is on or off. Just too bad that the LED is pointed in such a direction that when wearing the headset it's hard to see the LED at all. Again, an indication that the people at Trust didn't test the headset at all, or they would have noticed it. And let's take a close look at the RGB. The Disco Fest is more like it. It isn't the RGB like we know it, it's just a pre-programmed pattern, difficult words. You cannot change it in the driver interface. Now, if you're more into the disco-y RGB, this may be cool, but for me this is just dumb. The drivers are getting a bit old, as this overview shows. The driver is from 2020. Now, this may seem like it's old, but keep in mind that the driver interface is standard and is provided by C Media. Trust only needed to apply its branding or its own sauce to the interface. On the datasheet you can see how old the CM108B is, and thus how old the driver is in fact. 2014 at best. And this is what the driver interface looks like. In the top left corner you can see the GXT logo. Now this is the only branding or sauce that Trust needed to apply for its standard drivers to even function. Now you could have even left it out. Now if you want to change something you have to right click on the speakers icon. Just notice that it says speakers and not headphone. You have your volume control, sampling rate and all those other things, maybe the environmental effects. These are just the dumbest things ever. You also have some settings for your microphone, like the volume control, sampling rate, Xeer Sing FX, and your microphone boost. Now you may also notice that on the top right I have the volume sliders, well, maybe at 10%, 20%, and that's because now it's already really loud. If I go to the right all the way to the maximum volume, well, you will go deaf. Okay, for the listening sessions, let's just say what first comes to mind. Bad. The soundstage is nearly mono. The bass is completely missing. Now I can see those wannabe pro Tarkov players perk up their ears now. No bass. But too bad, the rest of the audio is just as bad. Even the wife, who doesn't have any interest in audio, confirmed that the audio was bad. Muffled, she said. So sorry Tarkov players, enemy footsteps will also not be heard. It's too bad that I can't measure the headset performance and show you what I also heard. One of the flaws that may have been illustrated better with some graph is that the left channel is louder than the right channel. Now during gaming this wasn't overly annoying, but when listening to music this was a constant issue. The balance was completely off. Yes, I could change the balance in the driver interface, but this isn't something that a headset should do out of the box. And this is also why some more expensive headset advertisements or specifications say matching pair of speakers. They will both be matched in tone, volume, and this does give you a more uniform sound quality. This is clearly something that Trust hasn't done. Now before jumping to my conclusion, there was something in the extracted folder that caught my attention. The Upgrade Firmware config tool. Now as a nerd, upgrading firmware is like candy, so I immediately clicked. My guess is that this shouldn't have been included by Trust and they forgot to remove it before putting it on their website. This tool wasn't meant for the general public. It's complicated and can do real harm, even deleting the config on the EEPROM and thus rendering the headset non-functional. But for me it was cool. I did some fiddling and not too soon after I became the owner of the first Anton's hardware headset, first in the world. And I easily changed the topology of the headset, so now Windows and Xeer driver interface now correctly identify the Blizz as a headset and not as speakers. You can also adjust the volume levels, but I wasn't too confident to make any changes there, even though the manual has instructions for those. When I first saw the Blizz secondhand on my favorite website, it was never my goal to bash Trust or the headset. This was never intended as a LOLs video, like haha look at me saying it's e-waste. I knew that for just 28 euros it could never be the best ever. And there are people who don't want to spend or have enough money to spend on gaming gear for themselves or their kids. But I must warn those parents, your kids will go deaf when they use this headset. Gaming for any length of time with the volume the Blizz is able to produce will hurt, no, destroy the hearing capabilities of your kids permanently. Please take heed. And for me, after having used it for some time, I'm left astonished by the level of inferior quality. I just couldn't find anything that's even remotely okay on this headset. The audio was horrible, the wearing comfort was bad, it really hurt my ears. The build quality itself was so bad and brittle that to such an extent that it would almost break. The RGB isn't RGB, it's just a disco fest. The driver interface is ancient and the functionalities are dumb. Maybe the cable is the only thing that was okay-ish. It has decent length and it feels kind of quality. But paying 28 euros for a cable isn't cool, it isn't even worth it. As can be said about the Blizz, it's just the epitome of e-waste. Trust has done its best to cut costs at every step in the production. Dear Trust, I have correctly set up the Blizz in a matter of minutes with the config tool and I am no software engineer whatsoever. Why couldn't you? And now finally, for my conclusion, I won't even mention the word recommend here. I would rather shout out a warning: don't buy the Trust GXT 450 Blizz. You will be disappointed in so many ways you couldn't even fathom. As a matter of fact, steer clear of any product that Trust makes, unless you like to pay for disappointment. And with this ending, I would like to thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video. I'd like to see you in the next one. See you then, bye!